Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get right to the knowledge you can use. Today, we're plunging into something I find really fascinating. It sort of blends sports and data. The question is, does a tight end's body mass index, their BMI, actually help predict how well they'll do in the NFL?
It's a great question. And yeah, we've dug up some pretty robust data for you on this. Our source material is from this really in-depth analysis series. It looked at NFL Combine BMI data and crunched it with PPR fantasy football scores. We're talking top 50 finishers going all the way back to 2003. So our mission here is to pull out the key insights from all that data specifically for you.
All right, let's get into it then. Looking at the BMI averages chart, what was the first surprise?
You might expect like a straight line going up, but there wasn't really a glaring, obvious trend in just the raw averages. But here's where it gets interesting. In 13 out of the 21 seasons we looked at, that's what, 61.9% of the time, the guys finishing in the top 10, the really successful tight ends, they actually had lower BMIs than the players ranked way down, like 41st to 50th, in the same season.
Okay, wow. So it's not just about being the biggest guy on the field. It's more about finding that sweet spot. How did you go about actually pinpointing what that optimal range might be?
Yeah, the sweet spot, that's a good way to put it. So the next step was creating what we call differences chart. This basically compared performance within different BMI groups. We looked at 0.3 BMI increments. We were trying to see, okay, where do the top guys really separate themselves from the lower ranked players within those BMI brackets? And that initial pass, it sort of suggested that a BMI of...
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At brainyballers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting ability so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers' Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
31.7 and below, that looked like a promising area for finding top performers.
Right, 31.7 and below. That sounds like an initial flag, maybe not the final answer. I assume you had to verify that, really nail it down.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't just stop there. We dug deeper, tested various figures, fine-tuned it, and what we found was the most effective range, the one that really predicted top performance most consistently. It was precisely a BMI between 29.3 and 31.4. This specific window seemed to capture the ideal tight end type, maybe, agile enough for routes, but still powerful enough for blocking. And the result, a 22.6% higher rate of finishing in the top 10 compared to those in the bottom 10.
22.6%.
Yeah.
It's a pretty clear signal. And you mentioned statistics earlier. You look at the Pearson value, too. For listeners maybe not deep into stats, what did that number tell you?
Good question. So we found a Pearson value of negative 0.108. Okay, what that basically means. Pearson looks at linear relationships, strength, and direction. The negative sign here tells us it's an inverse correlation. So essentially, as a tight end's BMI gets lower, their fantasy scores typically get higher. It shows a clear trend. And yeah, it's significant. The study set a threshold looking for at least 0.1 or negative 0.1 for an inverse relationship for world-class athletes. So negative 0.108 clears that bar. Just for context, something like quarterback draft capital, which everyone knows is huge, that showed a Pearson value of negative 0.219. So our BMI finding, it's definitely, in the ballpark of having real predictive meaning.
Okay, that context helps. So lower BMI generally means higher scores. That feels a bit counterintuitive for a position like tight end, doesn't it? Is this trend consistent over time, like across the last couple of decades?
That's a really sharp observation. Yeah, it probably does suggest an emphasis on more athletic types. Tight ends who can, create separation, be a real factor in the passing game, not just blocking. And regarding time, our decadal analysis, it did confirm that. While let's say the strength of this optimal BMI range's influence might be slightly waning over the last 20 years, it definitely still remains a significant factor. It's not like it's vanished.
Okay, good to know it's not just some blip or a passing fad. So let's wrap this up, bringing it all together from this deep dive. What's the main takeaway for our listener thinking about tight ends and BMI?
Well, the bottom line is the data really does support the idea that BMI has predictive value for NFL tight ends. So the key thing for you when you're looking at players, maybe evaluating prospects, check their NFL draft combine data. You're hoping to see a BMI somewhere in that sweet spot, 29.3 to 31.4.
Right. And it's important to stress, like you said, this BMI range is a really useful piece of the puzzle, an aid, but it's not the whole story, right? Not a crystal ball.
Definitely not. Just one factor among many.
Okay. So here's something to chew on as we finish. We've got this pretty specific data-backed insight about BMI and tight ends. How might thinking about this specific physical attribute, how might that change how you evaluate athletes in totally different sports? Or even, stepping back further, how you assess skill or potential in fields outside of sports where, physical traits might play some kind of role. Interesting thought.